Welcome back, everyone. The first lesson we had at school and at university about translation is that translation is an art and it differs from one person to another. Everyone used to believe that it wasn't a science, that it lacks abstract reasoning, systematic principles, or rules for generalization. Even today, we still hear many voices that say translation is an art. It's a creative work. Basically, with either assumptions, one has to learn the principles of the discipline to do the job professionally. A talented singer, for example, has to work hard to improve his performance, and a scientist has to strive in data collection, analysis, and reasoning. In this channel, we look at translation as a skill that can be learned gradually, like any other skill. I think it's not appropriate to start translating without learning how to improve your skills, how to move from one language to another at all levels, linguistically and culturally. To do this, we can decompose the text into its minimal units. This approach is actually applied in sciences and philosophical thinking. The first principles of thinking are the fundamental building blocks of an idea. According to Aristotle, we need to divide any object into categories and subcategories to organize information. The first subcategory in any domain is the first principle. We cannot learn how to translate unless we know the basic components of the text. We first need to break the text down into paragraphs. A paragraph is a collection of sentences. A sentence can be divided further into words, words into letters. Once we know how to translate each part, we can put them together in a text. If we could make each component remarkable, then the totality should be remarkable as well. Without knowing these components, one may not be able to understand different combinations of words, sentences, paragraphs. Basically, we don't have to understand every single sound or letter, but understanding the main components of a structure can make us understand the meaning of the whole better. We discussed some strategies to translate the different types of nouns earlier. We also talked about two main methods in translation: direct and indirect. This classification of translation methods is also similar to Bloom's taxonomy of learning: lower order thinking and higher order thinking. The lower order thinking includes remembering, understanding, and applying. This is exactly what we do in direct or literal translation. The higher order thinking, on the other hand, includes analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Here, we can think of translation as a creative work. We go beyond the form. We go beyond the direct meaning of each single word and test its truth condition, the logic behind it, the connotative meaning, the context. Here, we can think of reasons why people tend to say a sad baby, not a baby is sad. Maybe because the baby doesn't have enough experience to know what happiness is or what sadness is. Let's move now to translation. If we think logically while translating, we can move from the lower order thinking to the higher. For instance, to translate the famous Islamic saying by Abdullah ibn Rawaha اجلس بنا نؤمن ساعة. We cannot put it directly because we won't get the message across. It contradicts the truth condition in 2 points. Number 1, he is addressing his brothers in faith. So, how can we translate the verb نؤمن into believe? Can we say, let's sit together to believe? They are already believers. Here we can say to strengthen our faith, for example. To strengthen our belief, for example. Secondly, the word ساعة cannot be translated into hour. The watch wasn't invented at that time, and the units of time haven't been used like today. They didn't divide the day into hours, or hours into minutes, or seconds. So, what about giving the intended meaning, like for a while, for a brief time? Now, we can think logically and critically. How to think logically while translating? You can simply train yourself to think of alternatives beyond your observations, beyond the direct meaning. You can try to change what is concrete to abstract. Here, your background of figurative language might help, such as simile, metaphors, personification, pun. This will stimulate your abstract thinking. You can also use optical illusion to train yourself. Some websites use art and photographs with optical illusions to train students to see things in multiple ways, which is a hallmark of abstract reasoning. Now, what do you see in this picture? Can you find a human head? You need to look carefully at the picture to find the human head. Similar exercises will slow you down when translating and will help you not to pick the first direct meaning that is close to your mind. Now, look at the second exercise. Where does the letter Z go? In the first or second line? This sort of exercises may help you try all possible alternatives. This is what a translator should do. He examines all the meanings of words, of phrases, to pick the right one. You can give me the answer later in a comment. But now, what can you see in this final picture? An old or young woman? In this picture, and many similar ones, can let you look at things from different angles. If you focus on one part of the picture, you will see a young woman. But if you widen your scope, you can see an old woman too. The point is, we can train our minds to think of different readings, different alternatives of the text, and consider the context practically. Thank you for watching, and see you later.